Hello and welcome to the Point of Influence podcast. Today we have a very special guest with us today. We have CarleneTodd. She's a cancer survivor, business owner, and most importantly, a good old friend of mine. Not going to lie, we haven't seen each other in years, to be fair, and I really can't wait to catch up and hear about all her inspiring story and how she got to where she is today. So, welcome to the podcast, Carlene. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good, thank you. Thank you for inviting me on.
No worries. I'm so happy you could come down. How's things been for you lately? Keeping yourself busy, as I can see online with everything?
Yeah, still busy. Had a little break. I just got back from Corfu, so I just had a little holiday.
Yeah, looks lovely.
Working full time still doing my business, but I've kind of we'll get into that, but I've got a salon helping me out with the business side now, so I've been able to take a little break, go on a holiday.
Enjoy life.
Yeah, just chill out a bit.
Oh.
Sometimes I do too much, so recently I've been trying to not do too much.
Good. Well, to be fair, I think after everything you've been through in your inspiring story, I genuinely think you deserve a break probably after all that. Although it's been some years now and almost seems like a distant memory, probably not to yourself, but I think I think I suppose the best place to start really was how it all started. So tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us about how this journey of yours started, I think we'll say.
Yeah, so I was just a normal 29-year-old, like, how old am I now? 5 years ago.
Hanging on to the 29 bit there.
And in my head I'm still like 26. So I was a normal 29-year-old going out probably way more than I should have, probably going out every Friday and Saturday, hungover every weekend, working in a job, just 9 to 5, flooding along. And I had been probably for like 18 months been feeling like a bit under the weather, but like I say, I was out every weekend, so I was like, probably hungover, probably run down. So for like 18 months-ish, I was not feeling 100%.
So that long, was it?
Yeah, maybe probably like towards 2 years. And I'd gone to the doctor like various times. Well, the amount of times I went in total was like 6. I saw 6 different doctors. I don't know how many times I went to the doctor, but over like 18 months to 2 years, I went to the doctor many times. And I was like, I've got like a constant cold. I've got like a really chesty cough. Had like these various, like nothing that you would really think like probably too much of individually, like if you had these illnesses. But because it was like so prolonged that I was having them, I never thought like it would be anything really serious, but I was just going to the doctor like, look, I'm still not well. And they were like, oh, you're really young, there's nothing wrong with you, like off you go. So I kept going to the doctor, and then it was only really like towards probably the end of the like 2 years that I started to like develop other symptoms. I didn't know there were symptoms at the time. So I had like really itchy skin on my legs and my chest, like so itchy to one point that like I couldn't sleep at night, because it was like so like irritating. Like I was waking up in the night drenched in sweat, chesty cough. I think they were like the main symptoms.
But they don't, to be fair, they don't seem like big things. Do you know what I mean? I've had, probably would say I've had all of them at some point, you know.
Yeah.
So
it's weird. When I was going to the doctor, they were saying, okay, the itchy skin, they were saying, oh, you're probably allergic to your washing powder. So I didn't have any reason to think that wasn't correct. So I was like, okay, I'll change my washing powder. Then they said, oh, we think you have eczema. So it was all these little things. You wouldn't really think much of them, but I think because I had them all quite intense at the same time, it was making me wonder like, oh, is there something weird going on here? So then I eventually, the final kind of symptom that I had was a lump like kind of grew on my chest, on like my chest bone it was. But because I've been to the doctor so many times, I got to the point and I was like, oh, there's no point in going to the doctor again. So I actually noticed it when I was putting on fake tan, funnily enough, for a night out. And I took a picture of it, sent it to my mum, and was like, oh, my mum's a nurse. I was like, oh, this is on my chest. Any ideas? She was like, oh, I think you should go to the doctor. And I was like, no, I only went like 2 weeks ago. The last thing they told me at the doctor's was, you're sleeping on a bad pillow. So we think, because I also had a painful neck as well. So they told me I was sleeping on a bad pillow. So I'm just like, I said to my mum, do you know what? I exercised I went to the gym for like the first time in about God knows how long, a year. The other day I was like, I probably pulled a muscle or something, like just thinking it was, you know, something along those lines. My mum's like, no, I think you should go to the doctor. Anyway, I wasn't going to go. But then a girl I work with, she used to be a PT, and she was like to me, you don't have any muscle there, like you definitely haven't done something in the gym. So I was like, okay. Everyone at work's like, just go to the doctor, just go to the doctor. And I had private health care, like cover free work. Yeah. So I was like, okay, go to the doctor. So I went to the doctor again, and then I saw a doctor that I hadn't seen before, and she was like the first person to take me seriously. So she just looked at it, and then I saw her like scrolling through notes from my previous visits, and I could tell like that something was wrong. So then, yeah, from there onwards, it was like non-stop. She referred me straight away to see a specialist. Oh, yeah. I will tell you one, it's not really a fun fact, but one weird...
Fun fact? Yeah, let's start off with fun facts. I can have a new feature.
One strange thing that happened was she referred me to a specialist. He examined me and said that there was nothing wrong with me and I was fine. So I like went off on my way, like, oh, there's nothing wrong with me. And then I got a phone call from another specialist, his receptionist, and she said, oh, can you come in for this appointment? And I was like, oh, no, I don't need to. I've been to see other Mr. Specialist, and he's checked me over, there's nothing wrong with me. And she was like, oh, well, your doctor's referred you to this specialist as well, so you might as well come in. And I was like, oh, for goodness sake.
Sounds like you'd spent quite a lot in and out in that, trying to convince these people.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, there's nothing wrong with me. The other man says there's nothing wrong with me, but I'll go anyway. Go along to see this other specialist he's like the breast specialist over here. Right. So I think my doctor must have been thinking, oh, I'll send her to the first person she sent me to was like I'm not sure what, something to do with your chest specialist. And then this guy was a breast specialist. Went to see him. He did an ultrasound and instantly was like, oh yeah, there's a mass on your chest, which is likely a tumour. So if I hadn't gone to that appointment, that
you would never have...
No, if I'd gone with the first man,
and that was literally just luck.
Yeah, so I don't know, we still don't know whether my doctor accidentally referred me twice to two different people, or I'm not sure what the deal was, but yeah, luckily that happened.
Honestly, if there's one thing I believe in life, is that everything happens for a reason. Without sounding cheesy, genuinely, I don't know why, I just think you're on a path. But when you're telling that story there, again, you know, as I said, I was kind of talking to you before this, just the fact that I knew you kind of made it a little bit real from a distance, you know, just seeing social media when you eventually did talk about it. But how did you feel like talking to doctors and them not listening to you? Because that's something that I think a lot of people would resonate with. Like you always feel like maybe you're a hypochondriac or maybe you're, you know, overthinking it. But it sounds like you had to really convince the doctors. Yeah,
well, the last doctor I saw before the one who took me seriously, he really actually kind of upset me. He just didn't even really examine me, and he just said, oh, you were only here like 2 weeks ago. And I said, I know, but I still don't feel well. I've still got a sore neck. I think by that point I had a really sore neck, and I think like it was swollen lymph nodes probably, but I was like, oh, my neck's sore. And he was like, barely examined me. I was like, oh, I think you're sleeping on a bad pillow, and just sent me on my way. And when I saw him, I just thought, do you know what, like, nobody's taking me seriously. And I actually also felt like everyone I worked with thought I was being a hypochondriac as well, because they were like, oh, you've been saying you're ill for like a year. And I was like, I have been ill for a year. And I was coughing like this. My cough I had was so chesty, it was like a bark, and you could probably hear me down the end of the office. And I actually felt like people thought I was just exaggerating the whole thing.
That sounds like my worst nightmare.
Yeah.
I mean, I know. You know, I mean, just doctors not listening or you know, overthinking it. And I you know, I do hear that a lot about people having to, or people that have found out and then saying, don't let down on it, just make sure you keep at it. And by the sounds of it, it was obviously the right thing to do. So let's stick where you were there about finding out from that doctor you had a mass on your chest. How was that?
Oh God, it's weird. I remember it, but I don't remember it. It's like as if I've like kind of blocked it out.
Like trauma.
Yeah, my dad and my sister were there. So my mum was actually, it was really bad timing. My mum was away on holiday. I think, I can't remember where now. She was away somewhere. And she was trying to get back, but like the flights from where she was at her friend's house, I think, like somewhere out away in Spain, I think, at her friend's villa. And she was like trying to get home, but at this point we didn't really know. It was just kind of tests, like we didn't know how bad it was. And then when obviously he told me that, my mum's like frantically trying to get back to the island. My sister was on maternity leave, so she was able to come to like all appointments with me. And my little nephew, who now he's 5, but he was like literally like a little baby then, he came to every hospital appointment with me. He was there with her. So the day I found out was my dad and my sister. And I remember him saying, there's a mass, but he was like, I really can't like tell you what it is, because he was like, it's not in your breast, and he deals with like breast cancers. So he was like, I need to refer you like to the hospital. So I went to the hospital. I think, I don't really know timings now, but I think maybe like the next day or same day I went for a biopsy. And the biopsy I remember really clearly, because it was like the most awful thing I've ever experienced. And then it was just like painful. I think I just was like, what's going on? There was just obviously a lot going on in my mind. And then it was all like a really short like time frame. Again, I don't even have a clue about time frames anymore. But they did confirm that it was, I think they confirmed it was some sort of lymphoma, but they needed the lymphoma specialist to know exactly what it was. So I had to wait for a doctor to come over from Southampton, and he only came on like Thursdays, I think it was. So they were like, you need to go and see this doctor. He comes over on a Thursday. So it was like this weird just like limbo where I just was like, oh, I don't really know what's happening. Yeah. Like didn't even know like what type of cancer it was. It was all very...
How many days had that gone for?
I don't know now. I think like...
Probably felt like a lifetime.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. But the day that I found out, like as soon as I knew it was a tumour and he said it's likely cancer, I just like, so we left the appointment, and then my sister's like, right, you need to come and stay with me, because I lived on my own at this point, like renting a flat. And I was like, no, I was like, I need to go back to my flat. And my dad's like, no, you need to come with us. Like, come on, you need to come home. I was like, no, I'm going back to mine. So my sister's like, my dad's like to my sister, just let her go. So my sister's like, right, go and get your stuff, come and stay at my house. I went to my flat, text the girl. So literally was just like, oh, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I've got cancer. Like, can you meet me outside my work at the time? So they all left work. I walked down to my work. We went to Mimosa, and we literally just got wasted, because it was the only thing I could do. I just needed to get drunk.
God, really?
I was like, yeah. So we just sat like upstairs Mimosa, drank loads of Prosecco. My sister's texting the girls like, is she okay? Is she okay? And they're like, yeah, don't worry, she's fine. She's drunk now. We were like looking for wigs online, because obviously I knew I was going to lose my hair. So yeah, it's weird. Now I think back, I'm like, God. But me and the girls, because it will actually be in like 2 weeks, it's like 5 years since the day I found out. And me and the girls go for a drink like every year on that day.
Really?
Like, yeah, because we did it that day. We're like, right, we'll go for a drink. Yeah.
Well, do you know what? I think from what I remember of seeing of your journey, the one thing that I think was the nicest thing, and again, me and the boys would say this when we would have our conversations, you know, and sort of seeing it from an outsider's perspective, and we were just like, so glad that you had all your friends, and you just seem to have such a close, tight-knit friend group, and that must mean a lot to you during that time.
Like, thank God I had the girls. Like, I just needed, like, my poor sister, my dad, my mum, like, they really wanted to, like, be there for me, but I needed, like, normality. Like, I needed people to not fuss over me. I needed someone to come to Mimosa and get drunk with me. Like, that's what I needed. Like, more than anything.
Cool girls, right? Which one's available?
Come for a drink.
I also love the fact that you said they all just left work. And just went
they did. Yeah, like literally, like Sam and Tash both worked with me at my old work.
Right. Okay.
So they both got up and were like, we're going. Like, Carlene needs us. Left, and Steph works across the road, so she also just left work as well. So it was like around 4 o'clock, I think, and it was also, I think, a Friday, and they all just left work, and I was like, please, can we just get drunk? Like, that's all I wanted to do. So yeah, and honestly, Tash dropped me home, to my sister's house in a taxi, and then like when I got into my sister's house, I texted the rest of our girls, the rest of our girls from school, and was like, oh, girls, don't really know how to say this, but I just told them. I was like, I'm going to do it now while I'm drunk, and just told them. So
yeah. So well, to be fair, that kind of leads on to the next bit. Obviously, one thing you've always been is quite open about this journey of yours that happened. I think is the best way to describe it. But like having such a close-knit friends around you and being able to be so transparent about it, what made you want to sort of document the journey?
So when it happened, when I found out, I was the complete opposite. I was like, this is top secret. I was like, I don't want anyone knowing. I don't want anyone, you know what Jersey's like. I was like, I don't want people gossiping. Yeah. I don't want people fussing over me. Like, I really didn't want people fussing over me. I was like, I don't want people to feel sorry for me. And then when I finally like finished chemo, I was like, right, that's it. Like, I'll just tell everyone what's happened, because like I feel like I'd learned so much along the way that I wanted to like share the things I'd learned. So like, for example, how important it is for people to give blood was a big thing. So before it happened to me, I'd thought so many times, oh, I should probably give blood. Like, not really like understanding why I should probably do it. I just thought like, oh, you know, it's a good thing to do.
It's the good things,
yeah. Like now I can't give blood because I have bad blood. Because the cancer I had is a blood cancer.
Right, yeah.
But
bad blood's probably not.
Yeah, bad blood. It's no good to anyone. I also can't donate organs if I die because I've got now bad organs because of my chemo. But like those
really
things.
Really sound it here, Carlene.
But I learned that like, so at one point my I can't remember the correct terminology. I think it's like my platelets were really low when I was having chemo, which means like you basically got no immune system left. And if you get ill, it can be like really, really bad for you.
Right.
So at stages like that, they might give you a blood transfusion. So that's when you need other people's blood. So I started to learn like, oh, it's really important that people give blood, because this is the reason why, for example, there's obviously other instances. No,
you're right. You've seen it from the other side. I can get that.
Yeah, and then like just even oncology. Oncology, I didn't even know what that was before this happened to me, but that's where you go for chemotherapy. So like in my head, where you get chemotherapy is what I've seen on a film, and it's like a grey room with a leather chair, and it's scary, and it's like everyone's dying around you. Oncology,
I have the same thought.
Yeah, everyone.
Like, generally, that's the way I would picture it in my head. Why is it? No,
it's not like that at all. So I basically was like, in case this happens to anyone else, I would like for people to have like a point of contact to maybe ask some advice or get some information from. So I just sort of was like, do you know what? I want to like be someone who can give people information. If it happens to them, they might ask me where they can get a wig from, or I don't know, you know, those sort of things. So that was sort of why I was like, oh, actually, I'm just going to start speaking about it.
Well, and I remember you put out a post on social media. I think there was the one, it was you and the girls, and it was the first you'd spoke about it, because, and you know, I'd not heard anything, and that was the moment which I spoke about to you, when even me and the lads that we all went to school with, and you know, within our old friend group and that we all kind of, when we were next together, or we all spoke to each other, was just like, wow, like, did you hear? And it's just this kind of moment where it made it all feel a bit real. And you know, it as I said, we hadn't seen each other for like 10 years or whatever, but it felt so real. But then since that moment, and since you did that, it was like, I don't know, it felt like, you know, from a distance you could follow your journey, because you were so open about it, and obviously for these good reasons as well. But one thing I think you did really well, which I found the complete opposite of what I thought it was going to be until I listened to it, but you started a podcast, and you found that was one way to reach these people you're talking about, to try and tell your story. But how did that come across?
So the podcast, basically the honest reason I made that is because I was finding that I was getting a lot of messages on social media with various questions, like all the time, every day, more than once a day. And as much as I really wanted to like be a person who was like people could reach out to and had potential answers for people on questions they might have, I found that I was receiving like a lot of sad messages every day of like people going through it. Also messages with people sending me their symptoms and wanting me to diagnose them. And obviously like I wasn't able to do that, and I would just say to people, you know, go to your doctor, like insist that you get an answer if you feel like there's something wrong. But I felt that maybe if I put all of the answers to everything that happened to me in one place, and then if people had things they wanted to know, just like a particular thing that happened to me, maybe they didn't want to hear like from the start what happened, but they wanted to know about symptoms or about how long it took for my hair to fall out and stuff like that, then they could go and find the episodes that related to that situation and listen to it. So yeah, I found that probably replying to a lot of messages every day and like reliving what had happened and going over everything probably was not, I can't remember the word, I keep detrimental.
Detrimental.
To myself. So yeah, I just kind of felt like maybe I need to take a bit of pressure off myself. And if the information was there, people can go and find it if they want to. But maybe save myself from having to directly answer loads of questions all the time. Like, I'm really open about talking about it and I'm really happy to talk about it. But I was receiving like a few messages a day and I found it was really
overwhelming.
Yeah, it was a bit overwhelming.
Well, I also found as well when I was listening to it, I told you, I was like, it just seemed like a bit of therapy for you as well. It felt really personal, and honestly, anyone that's listening to this, if you actually want to listen to something that's decent and has some value to it, I would definitely recommend you go check out last year The Chemo Saved My Life, which is Carlene's personal podcast, and it's got some really, really insightful information in there, but some in-depth stories and weirdly enough quite a bit of humour. Just me talking to myself in my kitchen. I think that says a lot about you and your character as it is. But I really did enjoy it. But the podcast is only one side of it, and it's kind of what this podcast is and what I'm trying to get the conversation here. But how you used your own personal brand and you're, as you said, you're very open to talking. You're very bubbly personality and make light of very, very tough situations. You use that for the advantage of good, really, on social media by telling your story and directing it through the podcast, but also through social media. You documented your journey, right? So I think from when I started speaking about it on social media, from then I started to then be more open with like my hair regrowth and sharing awful pictures of me with like bad hair. Listen, as I said, we've known each other for years, and the Carlene I know, the old Carlene I know, I couldn't imagine a hair out of place, let alone some of the photos that you put out there. But I think it really is important because I think you helped a lot of people. Yeah,
I think that was a big thing that I think changed in me after, basically after I found out I had cancer. I just realised what was important in life, and it doesn't matter if my hair's not perfect. It doesn't matter that I'm not the size whatever. You're
like trying to think what's the best size to say.
I just realised that doesn't really matter. Like, of course, I still like to look after myself and will make an effort when I go out, but yeah, you don't see me in makeup very often anymore. I put on a little bit just for this today. But I think that my priorities definitely changed. And
really?
Yeah, the pictures that I've shared of myself on social media now, I'm just like, well, but I will say that after, when I was sick, all the doctor's appointments I had and the things that happened to me when I was ill, I have no shame anymore. I don't care about anything. Yeah, you're just like, it's all out there now. I don't mind at all. But you documented your whole journey, and one part of that documenting, which was very personal to you, which I can imagine for anyone, but especially a female, I can imagine as well, was losing your hair. It was a huge part of what you went through. But it was almost the transformation, the regrowth process, the updates on social media that started a whole new life for you, right? Yeah. So I will say, as much as I've just basically said that I didn't care as much about things, I really actually did. My hair, for me, like losing it was a really big thing. And I think that most girls probably would feel the same way, and men as well, actually. I have a lot of men who speak to me about it. But I think that losing my hair, I just kind of felt like I wasn't me anymore. It was really weird. And then my new hair started to grow in, but basically from when it started, I was like, that's it, I'm going to look after this not, by the way, not that I have, I bleached it again and probably done what I shouldn't have done. But I was like, I'm going to like look after this hair. Like, that's it. Like, from the minute it grows in, I'm only using natural products on it. So this was for a long time, I only used natural products on it. So I looked up the best natural shampoos. I was using like a baby's hairbrush. Like, I was like, this hair is going to be the one. Yeah. So basically, from as soon as it started growing, well, actually probably hadn't even started growing in yet. As soon as I finished having chemo, so I was originally mixing like some natural oils and putting them on my hair, and just like, because I washed my hair every day at that point because it was barely there. I'd put it on at night, sleep with it on, wake up, wash it off. And then my hair had started growing in a little bit, and I got back to work, I think probably part-time, and a girl that I worked with, she knows a lot about essential oils. She's really into essential oils. And how it actually started was, one day I had a stomach ache, and I must have been next to her moaning about it, and she was like, "Oh, try this," and she gave me like a little like roll-on thing made up of essential oils. She was like, "Try this," and I'm thinking, "Oh, that's not going to do anything." But anyway, rubbed it on my stomach, and then I actually, after like a short period of time, didn't have a stomach ache anymore. So I was like, wow, that is very interesting.
Yeah.
So then I started to like look into essential oils and speak to her a little bit more about them. And I was like, are there any that will help my hair grow back? Like, that was at the time all I cared about. Like, I want my hair back to like long again. So she was like, yeah, there are. So she sort of helped. Well, I think I like looked into which ones that I wanted to order, and she had an account with a manufacturer. So she was like, I'll order you some. So she ordered them for me. So then I had this like new potion that I put on my hair.
You were literally making potions.
Literally making a potion, yeah. So my hair was like growing in, and it was like really thick, and I was doing this like probably at this point like 2-3 times a week. But like, my old hair before was quite fine. I had like ruined it from bleaching it, but it was, yeah, my mum would say poor hair, like just like not very good hair. And this new hair that was growing in was so curly. Now, I did ruin it because I had it chemically straightened when I went to Australia.
You had like a
it
full
was
on perm
so
at one point,
curly.
but that's to do with the chemo though, right?
No,
was it not?
It's some people's so some people's hair grows back really curly.
Oh, right, okay.
And then some doesn't, but mine was so curly, like it was like wild, really thick, growing like really quickly. So I was like, oh my god, my new hair's so thick. And then I was like, maybe it's my potion I've been putting on. So anyway, at this point, I'm just still using it myself every like 2 days, using it, wash it off in the morning. Didn't really think much more of it. And then I went away to Australia to go traveling. Well, I went to move to Australia. And I was like, when I was going, I was like, right, I can't take all my little essential oils with me. Well, I could, but basically the other oils I needed to mix them with, I was like, oh, how am I I can't travel with this. Like, it was really like a pain for me to like cart all of the different things, all the different bottles, with me. So I was like, oh, I'll just have to leave them at home. So I went away to Australia, like travelled around a little bit, and then COVID happened. So I had to come home. So I came back to Jersey, went back to do my magic potions on my hair, and then it just got me like thinking, like, oh, all of those different ingredients need to be like in one bottle, packaged, and then like this will be easier for me to apply. And then like people would be messaging me like, oh hi, can I just ask like what are you using on your hair? Like, how did you get your hair to grow back so thick? And I was,
again, you were documenting this whole journey, really, wasn't it?
I kept like doing updates of my hair, and so I was like, oh look, I can tell you what I make, but it's complicated. You need to order this, and this. It's like the essential oils alone cost 60 quid. So I'm like telling people, look, you can order this to make it for yourself, but it's going to cost you 100 quid just to get the ingredients. So then that was kind of like how I got into my business. It was kind of accidental, really. But people were like, oh, okay, could you make me a bottle of what you're using? So I was like, okay. And then it was like, it was lockdown. I didn't have a job because I'd come home from traveling, and I was like, oh, maybe I should just make up like a batch of them, and if people want to buy them, they can. So I put on my Instagram story, like, look, people keep asking me what I use in my hair. I make a little magic potion. does anyone want me to make them some? So like 60 people messaged me like, oh, could you make me some?
Wow.
So I was like, okay. So I ordered like 60 bottles, like little plastic bottles, 100ml ones. Made up these potions.
I don't keep calling them potions. Sorry, that was my fault. It was my fault. Sorry.
Made up these like hair oils, and at this point it was all very basic. Like I got some labels made, but they were like the cheapest possible labels, just so that people like knew what to do. I just like wrote on it what to do. Like I was like, oh, what should I call it? So I called it Malva, which. The name now, I'm like, I don't love that name, but there's a reason why it's
I
called
wanted to
that.
ask you, where did the name come from?
Yeah, so basically, the colour mauve is Malva in Latin, and mauve in colour psychology is described as bringing to mind springtime blossom and growth.
That's some seriously well thought out name there. I just thought you...
So that was why I couldn't call it Mauve, because there was another company over here called Mauve. So we called it the Latin version, Malva. So I was like, right, I'll call it Malva. It was all very kind of like, I had a little logo made. It was all very like low-key, just done cheaply.
You weren't taking it very serious as a business.
Yeah, so I set up like an Instagram page, and then like I think it was just probably within 3 hours I posted saying on my personal page on Instagram saying, oh, I've made this hair product, which is what I use. If anyone wants to order it, like please let me know. Like 60 people had already like messaged me about ordering it, so I had like another 20 bottles. I was like, I've got another 20 bottles, and I said like 10% of every sale will go to I think it was cancer, one of the cancer charities. I can't remember which one I chose now, but cancer research or one of the cancer charities.
Yeah.
And then I posted it, and then like literally within like 2 hours I'd sold them all.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay, I've sold them all. So then I was like, oh, put like a little poll, should I make some more? And people were like, yeah, please can I have one? So then I had a waiting list of like 100 people. Wow. So I was like, what's going on? So I'm like trying to order more ingredients and order more bottles and everything I needed.
Yeah.
And then from there, it just kind of, escalated. The JEP somehow found out about it, contacted me, were like, oh, can we do an article on you? So did an article in the JP, and then from there, like the article alone, after that I sold like I had like 500 outstanding orders I needed to fulfill. Wow. So it just, from there, just kept, really, I will say I haven't really tried to sell it. It's been word of mouth more than anything. So
it's been the story as well, because you've never you obviously didn't do all this to make a business. The business came naturally, and people cared about you and your story, and they believe you because you literally the proof of it of that side of what you wanted to achieve working. And I think complete fair credit to you, because the business seems to be going from strength to strength. The reason why I actually reached out and spoke to you and how this whole conversation started is because my wife works in a hair salon. She has her own business, and she sells the product itself. And I seen her putting it on one night. We were giving the kids a bath, and she was putting the stuff in. And I was like, what are you doing? She's like, oh, this is Carlene's, and you went to school with her. And we just started chatting about it, and then I started looking more into the story and all of it. And it seems to have just been going from strength to strength. So where's next for the business now? Are you hoping to grow further, or are you still keeping it low key and just trying to manage?
So I think actually at one point, probably, when was it? Maybe 2021. I was so busy with it, like so busy and like working full time. I probably was putting too much pressure on myself. I was really busy, and I had orders coming out my ears. And I used to do a collection service where people would come. So this is when I lived at my mum's house.
Yeah.
Come to my mum's house. I'd leave their order out in a box outside, and they would come and pick it up as and when they wanted. But I was having people turn up at my door at 7 a.m. when they hadn't told me they were coming, and then I'd have people just coming willy-nilly. So I was like, right, I need to get some sort of order here, because it was like I'd be like coming out of bed with one eye open, answering the door like, hello, sorry, what did you order?
And that was the point as well, where you literally had no shame, as you said. So
I was just like in my pajamas, like, sorry, I'm in my pajamas. I was like thinking, okay, I need to really, because it was so busy, like I couldn't keep like putting that pressure on myself to stay on top of all the orders. So a salon over here had contacted me and asked to stock the oil. But when I'd first started out, loads of salons, well, I say loads, probably like 4 or 5 salons had contacted me.
I can imagine, don't undersell yourself.
And been like, oh, can we sell it? But I wanted to actually keep it quite exclusive to like one place. So I'd said House of Maine would be that salon. House of Maine are still stocking it,
yeah.
But since they've restocked again, they've been selling it. They've been ordering loads from me, so they're definitely selling it at a good speed. So
yeah. And do you have any aspirations for growing the business, or are you quite happy at being a side?
It's a weird one because I do, and people always like to me, come on, you need to do.
I'll be the first one on your case about this. I mean, there's so much potential there.
I go through stages of being like, oh, I don't want the pressure, and then I'm like, no, I really should be doing this. Like, I'm working 9 to 5 in an office. Like, I don't have to be working 9 to 5 in an office. So I don't know. I dip in and out of ideas of expanding and not, but yeah, I'm just like really grateful because, to be honest, like I say, it wasn't like an intentional business setup, and I wasn't trying to like make loads of money or anything. It's just like something I do on the side of like a 9 to 5 job. And it's, for me, like seeing people's success stories, and people send me all the time, people send me like before and after pictures of their hair, and I'm even like, wow, like, did I make this product that has done that? Like, I can send you some before and after pictures, obviously, if you want to have a look, but it's crazy because I'm like, I forget that I've like made that product. It's really weird. Yeah.
And you were literally the target audience as well, so you can understand what people are going through, whether it's, as heartbreaking as cancer, or even people lose their hair in general, it thins out and stuff like that. So even if you know how much it shouldn't mean something, but it really, really does mean something. It's your personality, it's who you are. So obviously you're helping in that side of things. But I tell you what, though, one thing you say there, though, is the work-life balance. And I think with everything you've gone through, I can understand work-life balance being important and you wanting to enjoy life. So what's the goal now? Tell us about this work-life balance. Have you got? How do you go through what you went through, and how do you get on with your life from there and move on? What's life like now for Carlene?
I will say that I now work at a place where I've got really good work-life balance, so it's great. Yeah,
it's a good start.
I think previously, not sure I did have. So yeah, like where I'm working now, I'm really happy. I feel like that is something I've got. I do now, though. I used to put, like, for example, with Malva, the business, I used to very much put that before myself, and like I had to fulfill orders and I had to reply to every message immediately and I had to do all these things. And I would, like, at one point I would be like out on a Saturday night and I'd be like ringing my mum, like, can you put an order together? Because I think because I was kind of letting people collect it from my house, people expected me to be there and be able to do that. So I definitely think selling at a salon now has given me that balance again. Like now I know the salon will deal with it. I don't get as many orders directly because people can go in and pick it up from the salon. Yeah. And I think that in itself has let me relax a little bit and given me that balance. But yeah, for me, work is... life needs to come before work.
That's what I mean. You must have a complete different outlook on life now after everything.
Definitely. I think that more so now I just realise, like, okay, we're working to live, not the other way around.
Just keep saying that to yourself. No, to be fair, we could all do with a bit of that. But so obviously the other thing as well is you're very open about your story. We spoke about different features you've done. You did Manor magazine, cover girl. We can officially add that to your CV now. Podcast, JP in local press interview online. Do you find yourself happy and wanting to do this more and keep telling your story, or is it something that you kind of want to move on from now?
No, I think that as much as I don't want to kind of like dwell on the past and relive, I'm not like a woe is me kind of person. Like I don't want to relive that, and to be honest, it sounds really weird, and you said it earlier, but it feels like a distant memory. It actually does. Like I'm like, did that happen to me? Like it is like, it's like weird. Like I kind of not forget that happened, but it is like a distant memory, really. And so in November this year, I will be, when I have my next checkup, then I'm out of remission. So I'm then, what's the word? Out all clear, but what's the word? We don't need to go to the doctor anymore. Discharged from the hospital. So in November, that will be the end of that. And I think that I've kind of like come full circle. So I was talking about it really a lot. And then I went for a stage where I didn't really want to talk about it anymore. And then I did actually start going to actual therapy rather than just doing my podcast.
Oh, that's a good thing.
Yeah. So I think going to therapy was a really good thing for me.
Yeah.
And then now I feel like, I'm back to being happy to talk about it again. So it's been like a weird process. Yeah.
I honestly, Carlene, I swear to you, I really do think it's important. I think, you must have, yourself more than anyone, but you've helped so many people just by being so transparent about it all. And I can just imagine that, as you said, the people that are DMing you, asking your advice, they must be people that, because your personality, they feel so easy to be able to just send you a message about something so personal. And that's credit to yourself and who you are as a person. And I think what you do is fantastic. I think your product's brilliant. I hope to see that grow from strength to strength. May have a conversation off camera about some of your digital side of things, but we'll leave that. I might be able to convince you to step up a little bit there.
I
honestly,
need a push.
It's fantastic. But you're just like, it's a bit on the side. It'll do what it does. But otherwise, health and happiness is the most important thing. And thank you so much for coming and speaking to me. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.